Hello, everybody. It is Mike Levin on Thursday, February 18th, 2021. And this is how I start my day, usually after a reboot, because nuke the place from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. And my daily process begins on screen 1 with icon 1, which also is Control-Alt-T. That brings up Microsoft Terminal, and it boots directly into Ubuntu 20.04. And now I have worked on my menus a little bit. I have an Anaconda prompt there, and you can see the backslashes means it's basically command prompt, but using the virtual env tricks of Python so that all the resources like the pip installs and stuff are collected into one reassignable location. So this is base. I'll probably change that to something other than base so that I don't write into my base install. But for now, pretty proud to have Anaconda on my prompt. This next one I use for work. And then this next one is just PowerShell. I don't know why you'd ever go into there. I have to make the default font a little bit bigger. And I have, this is some sort of marketing. I'm not sure what a Azure Cloud Shell is, but we have an old-fashioned command prompt. No reason to pull that up, and Microsoft peddling their wares. So even though they make a wonderful tool like this free, there are many roads into that sort of dependency that they're talking about. So I like to have at least my first 3 screens assigned to a certain given purpose. During the workday, the third screen usually has Excel or it's different duty than what I'm about to show you. He said duty. L. I'm switching it from J because I use that for my journal. I'm using Control-L now to launch Jupyter Labs and get in the habit of thinking of it as labs. So it's Control-L. Does this. It first launches that little server window that you never really have to look at, but it's there. And in my case, the Microsoft Edge browser, in your case, it might be Safari or Chrome, whatever your default browser is. So I have not installed any other browsers on my system yet, except, of course, for Chrome on the Linux side, which was a lot of fun. And so this third screen, I like to draw pictures because now you can see one can think in terms of your language. I was about to show you. CD into GitHub, CD into journal, git pull. I've been working on my other machine during the day. I have not really moved all the way over to this machine. But since the work you've seen me do in GitHub and with keys, I have now moved my work over to here in a lot of ways. I am able to move my work over to here, and you're seeing me do that. When people talk about Git like it has changed their developer life, that's what I'm doing. You can see it had to stop because I have made some edits to my journal here. So I git commit changes from, I'm on a Surface laptop, Microsoft Surface Laptop 3, changes from MSL3. Those changes get committed. And then I can do a git pull, which pulls down the changes from the repository hosted at GitHub, Microsoft owned. So I'm on a Microsoft laptop. Okay, conflict. So automatic merge failed. It's going to do some merges. That's fine. So I am going to now vim journal.txt that I know is in there. And this is how I start my day, usually. Reminding myself of stuff, going through I guess it's a mantra, a repeated thing I tell myself to make sure I'm doing the right things for the right reasons in the right order. and not getting over invested in rabbit holes and stuff. Not going to read it to you because you've heard it before, or you can find it on YouTube. So I just do my keyboard shortcut to start a new journal entry. And now that I'm on a slightly new screen size, I'll have to adjust things so that it puts me at a good cursor starting position. But this is where I think in spoken language, which is an external tool that we each have all internalized, such that it feels like a natural born part of us. It's not. It's the loaded in software being raised. So this is where I think in English, because it makes it easy. Vim is fun, and if you think in your spoken language in Vim, then thinking, and I won't, it's too much elaboration, right? The next thing you do is you think, whoops, I did a minimize. So, you know, Windows is good, but it's not, you know, the best. Accidental minimizations of screens, you know, that can happen on any operating system. But you see how truly minimal it is. If I go over to one of these other screens here, you can see I don't really have much showing. And once I'm used to my keyboard shortcuts, once these hints have really settled in and there's no inconsistency between my two laptops, so there's no keyboard shortcut confusions, and keep it in sync with any Macs I have or whatever, but then you can just start to not show these. View, show desktop icons. So let's see, what haven't I run that I can demonstrate? Nothing, sorry. I can bring Edge back or something. But you can hide your desktop icons and your keyboard shortcuts still work. And now you can think in math, logic, or puzzle solving terms in Jupyter. So that's what I got going here. That's that little server in the background, because when you run Jupyter Labs or Notebook, it runs a little server in a console window that you can minimize if you want to. Browser goes full screen. Tab 1 is Jupyter Lab. You can add new tabs, and you can put whatever you want up here. And you're doing work through the day. And you're like, oh, I need to do something in Python. So long as you're in the web browser, you hit Control-1 and you're back at your Python. Okay, really? Is it Python? Well, we installed Anaconda, which installs Jupyter Notebook and Labs. I always launch my browser now through Jupyter Labs. I run Jupyter Labs to launch Edge in the morning, and I put it on screen too. This is my Python calculator. I'm going to start doing projects here with you. So you think in math, logic, or puzzle solving terms in Jupyter. That's here. And I don't know even how to demonstrate that to you. Maybe show you a little markup. You can change that from code to markdown. And this is a headline with one hash, right? You can go back and edit that and make subhead with 2 hashes, and so on with paragraphs. So you can do a little formatting, a little rudimentary formatting, and mix your markup with your code. This is code here, so A equals 1, and you can put A in. Whoop, I did not put A in. I'll have to brighten my screen or something, because make my font bigger. Why not? Make my font bigger. Python calculator in screen 2, right? So that leaves this screen 3. What is screen 3 for? Well, it's to think visually. With everything I'm doing, it's time to show you that what I'm really doing is making, in the first place, in the second place, and in the third place. Even though my ribbon goes on this direction quite a bit more, usually I have approximately 7 screens in play. It doesn't really matter. Screen 1, 2, and 3 have special meaning because this, I'll give you some color. Red, it's private, it's kept back. This is my journal. Always is my journal. Usually only my journal. I don't use any tabbed indexing or whatever. So if I use my keyboard shortcut to go back to the left, I know I get to my journal. Just go left all the way. Bam, you hit journal at the end. Or you can use your 3-finger swoosh controls here and switch over to it, or 3-finger swoosh in the more Macintosh way, which is really cool because, you know, it's just, you know, people say, how can you get excited about this stuff? But all these things I'm showing you in Windows 10, equally true on Mac. It's just a way of working. And I've spent quite a number of years working this way on Macs as well. So for all you people who think that the religion is in the operating system, forget it. The religion is in the general user interface that lets you flip between screens. I used to love Amiga N on the old Commodore Amiga computer. Let me tell you, computers are really just catching up with where things were some 30 years ago. So switch colors. Things are not released yet. You're sort of holding them back. You're processing them, but things feel good. You're making a difference in the world, like starting to have impact on the world because Python. I mean, I could use any number of different words for these things. I probably should maybe put Vim by journal. So maybe I'll go slightly more abstract because I didn't put English for journal. So it's code and web. It's both of them, code and web, because I do use those tabs on my browser. This screen, the second screen, is tremendously used in the course of the day. I live in there probably more than my journal. I only pop over to my journal for thinking, and after I'm done thinking, I put it into action, and you have this back and forth vibration mostly between screen 1 and 2. Think, put it in action. Think, put it in action. That's what my day looks like. Now, occasionally I pop over to the third screen to do whiteboarding, to think visually, and that is, I'll put in green. Think visually. Now, I say during the course of the workday, I'll put an alternative color in for that third step. Let's say this magenta here. Nope, that's not that magenta. This third color here is Excel, if I can make the color stay. That's why I might, instead of these sample things, which I'm not really crazy about, I can just hop in here, hit one of those, slide up, and it's more fun to look at, right? Okay. So for work, I am very often living in Excel on this side, or this might be another terminal, just like this is a terminal here, really, but this might be Excel or Terminal for work. But for these YouTube sessions, it's usually going to be something where I draw. And this whole technique, by the way, and I'm going to erase that part there because it detracts from the beauty of the screen, especially when I do this label down here that really should hit it home for you all. What we're talking about is the method loci. Okay, the method loci is a way of remembering things in the first place, in the second place, and in the third place. Okay, so this is a way that you can structure your thinking, your thought. How are you structuring it? In the first place, I journal. So it's becoming pretty meta right there. But in the first place, I journal. Okay, so you really use that first location to remind yourself about what's important in life and your daily processes. What's most broken? You're not going to know what's most broken and is in most urgent need of attention until you stop and think and you verbalize it out loud to yourself in English as if you're talking to someone. It's like pair programming. It's like rubber ducking. There's all kinds of reasons that what one does in journaling as if talking to someone, even if it is yourself, is important because it helps you think. Okay, and then where's the biggest bang for the buck? Okay, so there's going to be a way that you can order your work so that you get the most motivating and accelerating work up front so that it gives you immediate reward and gives you the motivation to go on to the next step. You make sure that you are not front loading with disappointment. Okay, even if it's a boring task, you find the most interesting and love-worthy part in it that will make the step after that better for you. Okay, and then which plates need to be spun. So these two steps have you ignoring stuff, have you pushing down the priority of things that might be competing for your attention, and you really can't let the important stuff fall through the cracks. So you ask yourself which plates need to be spun, and I put that at the beginning of my thought process. So long as I go, where do I begin? Well, I begin with an analysis, a lot like what I just described to you. And then, is there any portion of it that's coding? Well, yeah, sure. See, I'm a knowledge worker, so I have a lot of this. And you might be wondering what I mean by that, and I could illustrate that by thinking visually on the third screen, because certain concepts are just best this way, and you have to resharpen your skills. Resharpen, I guess it's just sharpen your drawing skills. And that's my screen 1, 2, and 3 of Method of Loci. There you had me thinking out loud. I really do not have anything to code on this video to make use of this middle one, but rest assured I will. Perhaps we'll use the web aspect of this to Google on Method Loci. Okay, Method of Loci. I guess I should put an of in there. So I guess this is him, maybe. I don't know. No, that's a Roman senator who was famous for using senator or emperor. I really, doing these videos, I got to get my facts right or people will comment the heck out of it. Well, you should go ahead and comment. That's a good thing. Memorization technique. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, ancient Roman and Greek. Cicero. Okay, well, anyway, you get the idea. some person who wants to remember stuff practices in their home, walking into a room and rehearses part of their talk to presumably the Senate, maybe the public. And you say, in the first place, when you're giving the speech for real, because now you can think back to where your mind was at in the first place. And this is the second place. Web browser, Python coding. And I use this index concept, the index concept that always makes it easy to get back to there, to make it easy to get back to tab 1 in the browser, control 1. And I make very sure that I'm running nothing else on screen 1 except for the little server that's powering Jupyter in the background. This is genuine Python. So that little server there is running a genuine instance of Python, and there's a management software management level, which is the Jupyter engine that does all the executing of Python and keeping it in sort of a suspended mode so that you can continue to investigate these variables. I can say A equals A plus 1. Now I can go back up here and run it, and even though it's above that, you'll see that 2 is in there. If I execute this again and then run this, 3 is in there, okay? So Python is like this little calculator that you can just use for general purposes, and you should work it into your life, and you should make it part of your habits and your muscle memory, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. And that brings us here to in the third place. So, I'll just save that with a default. It doesn't let you use the default. You have to answer yes. Okay, so I write over the default, right? So I can do File, New Painting. Okay, and just give you a quick little demonstration of thinking visually. What do I do? What is it that you do in your day job, Mike? I use yellow. What a bold statement. No one uses yellow. If you make it me-centric, yeah, me. And we've got stakeholders out here who I work for. They're my bosses, really. And they have lots of different interests and might be from different departments and, are, motivated by different, factors, what their jobs are. But they do all have questions, and they can do their jobs better if they get the answers to these questions. So, of course, the questions go really to my boss, but let's say they go to me. And then I figure out how to get the answers to those questions from data systems that are generally available over some form of the internet or the cloud. I know how to send that question on, to articulate that question, and to get the answers back. Now, what I also can additionally do is let's use this as a picture of a deliverable that I'm sending back to them. They can refine that question. I refine my question, and a new answer comes back, and another copy of the deliverable is created. And I can repeat that process until that deliverable achieves somewhat near perfection, okay? So then these folks are interested in seeing that same deliverable according to a schedule. So I guess we'd do a clock, a longhand and a shorthand. And so I do the same thing where I ask the cloud for a question, but instead of the answer coming back to me, which is, typically screen 2 in the middle here, right? So I'm doing interactive experiments. I actually use these screens to pull for data to say, hey, I need to hit system such and such, get some data, bring it back, turn it into an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, and then I email it off to one of my stakeholders. But once it's perfected, I can have the answer come back instead through a scheduler to a same deliverable to those same stakeholders, but without me in the process. See, if you see me in the middle here, I'm not actually on this line here except for making sure that the process is going right. It would be more like the automated path. I do this once, but after that's done, the clock starts making the request. The data comes back. Doesn't have to pass through the clock again. I should just make that go like that to here. And, you know, if there's any feedback that they're giving, I can refine the process, the automated process. But you can almost take this arrow out of the picture here after that because it's automated. It's going on its own. And then I can stack thing after thing after thing like that onto the scheduler and become much more effective as an individual. It's almost like, I'll go back to a white because it feels like it should be white for this next step. It's almost like I'm making carbon copies of myself in the company that just keep doing these things. And I look like a larger and larger and larger force than I really am. And there's other people in the company who work that way too. This is nothing special. This is just being a knowledge worker. In 2021. Because things have changed. Because Peter Drucker, no, it's Edward Deming who said this. Well, it's the one who talks about knowledge workers, right? So go over to Google and Google up yourself knowledge workers. And it'll tell you that it's a concept that was made by this economist. Yeah, it's Drucker, Peter Drucker. I was right the first time when I was thinking of it. And, you know, the most valuable, his prediction in 1999 is that the most valuable asset of a 21st century institution, okay, is knowledge workers and their productivity, okay? So most people are living in Excel, right? If you were to show all your learnings and skills advancing over the years. Here you are as a young person, and here you are at, say, a 50-year-old person. And, you know, your real honest endeavor into skills kick in at around the age of Harry Potter. That's like an 11-year-old when things get meta and you think about yourself. It's about halfway through your life. We'll call that 50 years old. It's where I am. Now, this is your education line here. You learn, and, you know, you go to, you know, high school, you go to college, you get some sort of degree, maybe higher education degree. Your education soars way up here. You get a degree. And then you use Excel all your life. And you're doing things manually and labor intensively for your entire life. And you can never duplicate yourself out and make yourself look bigger. You are destined to sort of fade into obsolescence. You can replace Excel here with name your tool. It's anything vendor, proprietary, anything perishable. Perishable meaning it will go out of style eventually, and anything excessively manual. Now, there's always attempts to automate Excel, but oh my God, don't get me started. So instead of going that route, you know, I am recommending and I'm showing you how in these video series. It's like I get 50, maybe if I'm lucky, 1,000 views on these videos. But this is better than any of that, you know, master course stuff. I'm going to show you how on the back of such tools as Python. That's the main one, right? But there's also a little bit of Linux here. Because you need your Linux to run your Python. And then everything in tech is text. Tech is text. Text is tech. You need yourself some Vim to get that muscle memory, that samurai sword of tech that no one can take away from you. Okay? Because life. And that last piece that this video kind of opened up with, because now this machine is taking on a whole new personality now that I have Git, because my code flows, because everything that I do with these other things can now travel with me wherever I go. And instead of this fading into oblivion line here, you can become larger copies of yourself, which is totally what I plan on doing. Someone once said to me, if you haven't made it by now, you're not going to make it. Oh my God, I could not disagree more. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. And don't forget the method of Loci. In the first place, in the second place, and in the third place. Whoops. Yes, there will be mistakes. That I can assure you. Don't forget to subscribe.